G'day guys, and welcome back to the channel. So coming up on the channel, I'm gonna have some really good videos. I've got a couple of new things in the actual room itself. I have a new Faraday cage. It's a lot sleeker. It's a 3D printed one. So we'll be doing a video on that. And I also have, I'm gonna tilt the camera down, a new launch monitor. We've got the GC2. So really excited. I've got a lot of good videos coming up on the channel. We're gonna be comparing different apps. So we're going to be comparing the Garmin app, we're going to be comparing Awesome Golf and E6, we're going to do distance comparisons, we're going to do ball flight comparisons using the GC2, lots of good stuff coming up. But today in this video, I'm going to get into chipping. It's going to be a follow-up video from my in-depth chipping video I did. Had a lot of questions, people saying, the R10 still isn't registering, it's not picking up when I chip. Why does short chipping work for me and why does short chipping not work for you? Why do some people have success with short chipping on the Garmin while others struggle? Today, I'm going to be giving the answers to that question. But to get the answers to that question, first we need to understand how the Garmin works. So there's a couple of generic answers you've probably heard to answer this question. Those being raise the unit up, move your ball closer to the unit or the device, swing longer, hit cut shots or hit like little flop shots. All those things, they might have a positive effect on your chipping with the R10. However, they don't really answer the question to why someone struggles with short chips on the R10 versus someone like myself who's never had an issue with chipping with the R10. Okay, so let's get into how this unit actually works and what are the limitations of this unit. We know that it's a radar-based unit. Okay, so it's using radar to pick up the club head and also pick up the ball. More specifically, it's emitting a 24 gigahertz frequency to do that. So how this works is the R10 is transmitting that 24 gigahertz frequency, and then it's using Doppler to assess whether there's anything moving, and that's how it's going to detect your shot. So what is Doppler? In its simplest explanation, Doppler is the apparent change in frequency between the source and a receiver. So what does that actually mean? So what that means is there's an apparent shift in frequency from the fundamental frequency that the R10 is transmitting on. So the R10 is transmitting on a 24 gigahertz frequency. And for argument's sake, let's just keep it simple. Let's say the boffins at Garmin have said to detect a swing, the frequency shift has to be 1 gigahertz. So it's not going to be that much, but just for argument's sake, let's keep it simple. Let's just say they've set the threshold at a shift in 1 gigahertz. So now the R10 is not going to turn on, or it's not going to start recording or registering anything unless it sees a Doppler shift or change in frequency of 1 gigahertz. So the R10 is transmitting on 24 gigahertz. The club head starts to move back, and therefore those wavelengths get compressed, or it's a higher frequency, a higher return frequency that the Garmin's going to see. And if it does see that 25 gigahertz return in frequency, then something's moving towards it. It's going to go from a flashing green light to a red light, and it's going to start recording your swing. Why is that important? So that's important because if you have a slow swing, a real slow chipping motion or chipping swing, you're not going to reach that threshold, okay? You're not going to reach that theoretical 25 gigahertz threshold, and the Garmin won't even trigger. It's not going to detect you swinging. And if it doesn't detect you swinging, then it's not going to register a shot. There are those generic answers of, hey, move closer to the unit, because it may give the unit a bit more, it may help the unit out a little bit. If you're getting potential interference from something, it might help. Raise the unit up. Again, it might help. Do a longer swing. A longer swing potentially will work, and I'm sure it would work when you get to a certain length, but if you're not doing a quicker swing, then it's not going to work, and I'll show that in a minute. So that is fundamentally why different people are going to have different experiences with chipping with this unit. For me, I've never had an issue. My chipping motion is a bit quicker and it's a bit more abrupt. So therefore, I'm meeting the threshold that the Garmin boffins have set. Why do they set the frequency threshold so high? So The issue would be if they said, hey, any slight movement, we want this thing to start registering a shot. And I believe in the early days they did do that. And the issue that people had was any motion, any waggling of the club that you did before you swing, that would turn the Garmin on and then it would miss your shot. So every software update that they come out with, Garmin would be adjusting that threshold slightly either way. So if they get complaints that people are getting missed shots because they're doing waggling of the club, or they're doing a slight motion before they take it away, and the Garmin picks it up, then they just go, okay, we'll make the frequency a little bit higher. So all those little waggles, they're not going to turn the Garmin on or change it from that flashing green light to a red light. If they set it too high, then it's going to have to require a real quick swing, or an abrupt motion back to actually get it to register. So they're always playing with that threshold and trying to find the optimal frequency that suits most people. How they could fix this? Well, stick around to the end of the video, because Garmin could fix this. They could come out with a software update that would fix this issue, that I believe is quite simple. But stick around to the end of the video and I'll talk about that. If you've seen my video, then you'll see that my chipping motion works with the Garmin R10. I've never had issues, but I'm just going to do a few different styles of chip shots just to show people the differences between a quicker swing and then a slower swing. Okay, so we're out here on the GS Pro practice range, and we're just going to do, so first off, I've got a 9-yard chip shot, and I'm just going to do my normal chipping action. I've got a 60-degree wedge. I'm just going to do our normal chipping action, and we're just going to see if the R10 picks up the shot. Okay, and that registered perfectly. We'll do one more. And again, registered perfectly. And it held down. That was a good shot. Okay, so that's my normal chipping motion. And as you can see, it is a bit quicker. It's a bit more abrupt. That's just my natural chipping motion. I haven't changed it or adjusted it for the Garmin. That's just how I chip. So if you're someone that has a real slow backswing, then potentially you're not meeting the requirements of the unit itself to then start detecting a chip shot. So I've got a flashing green light, and this is going to be really hard for me to do. I'm going to exaggerate this. I'm going to do a really slow, long backswing for this chip shot. Okay, and that was really hard for me to do. Okay, still got a flashing green light. So the shot still carried the same distance, but because I had such a slow backswing, there was no apparent change in frequency to the Garmin, or it didn't meet the threshold that the boffins at Garmin have set at the moment for the R10. So what's the apparent, so the definition, the apparent change in frequency, it's not changing the fundamental frequency. So the fundamental frequency is 24 gigahertz that the Garmin R10 is emitting or transmitting. That frequency is not going to change, but what will change is the apparent change in frequency of my club head moving back and compressing those wavelengths, and therefore increasing the frequency that the receiver in the Garmin is going to detect. It's going to say, hey, there's something moving towards me because that frequency that I'm emitting has gone higher. So there's something coming towards me. Much like you've probably heard so this is much like when a car is moving towards you on the side of the road. You're standing on the side of the road, the car's coming towards you. It's got a high frequency. As that car gets exactly equal to you, you're hearing the fundamental frequency of the actual engine or the noise that the car's emitting. And then as it goes away, it gets lower in frequency. And so that's obviously sound. The exact same thing's happening with the Garmin, except it's radio waves that the Garmin's transmitting. All right, so I'll do another slow chip shot here to try and show what I'm talking about. So this is the person who has a real slow, methodical chipping motion. Okay, so that shot there, the ball hit about 3 or 4 feet up on my screen. It was a long shot, but because I wasn't swinging back quickly, the Garmin didn't read that. It wasn't meeting that threshold. I'll do one more. Actually, what I'll do is I'll go back to just my normal chipping motion to show you that the unit's still working. So I'll do a normal chipping motion now. And for me, that's quite a normal shot. Okay, so that registered. And now I'll go back and I'll do a real slow swing again. Okay, and that thing hit about 2 or 3 feet up on the screen. I've still got a green flashing light. So, how can you fix this? Well, this is just one of the limitations of radar technology. And you've got to remember, this is basic radar technology. This thing's got one radar. It doesn't have a camera to help it. So it's just one radar trying to do a lot of jobs. It's trying to read the club head. It's trying to read the ball. So it's just a limitation of the hardware itself. To get this working, you can try all the generic things, like you can move closer to the unit. You can obviously make sure the unit's positioned behind where you're swinging. I think that's a key as well. You can raise the unit up, just try all these things, see if these things work. I would advise doing these things one at a time. Don't do everything at once, because if you do things one at a time, you can actually figure out and see exactly what is making the change. But if you do everything at once, then you've got no idea. So do them one at a time. So ultimately, how to fix this, you're gonna have to swing a bit quicker on those short chip shots if you want them to register. All right, guys, so that's just a short video. I hope that made sense and it wasn't too in depth. I think the key to fixing the chipping issues is to actually understand how the hardware works and understand the limitations, and then you can learn and you can actually implement changes and how to fix it. I mentioned that you can adjust or change your swing. You can make your chipping action a bit quicker, and that'll trigger the Garmin to pick it up. But how can Garmin help us out? So there's a very simple way that Garmin could help with this. And it would be basically having 3 different profiles in the app itself. So you could go into the application and you could actually change the sensitivity based on your swing style. Very simple way of doing it is you could have 3 different profiles. So have one for, say, a slow tempo player, and just have option A, which would be really highly sensitive, option B, moderate, and then option C, not sensitive at all. Each 3 of those profiles or settings would change dramatically how the Garmin picked up or started registering shots. So if you set it to profile A, where you made it really sensitive, then perhaps you wouldn't be able to do little waggles, you wouldn't be able to do like a pre-shot routine, because it's going to start picking up on that. So you'd have to be very static at the start and then take the club away. Have one middle of the road where, option B, where it's a bit of best of both worlds, kind of like where it is now. And then you could have option C, where you could have it to being not very sensitive at all, and you could really have to swing back aggressively and quickly to get the thing to start registering your shot. Each of those 3 profiles is going to have pros and cons, but I think that would at least give the user a bit more versatility and be able to select a profile that suits their swing or suits their game, and then allow them to get the most out of the Garmin. The other option would be just having a slider scale and just having, say, the tortoise and the hare. Have a picture of a tortoise and a hare, and or something of that nature, and have a slider bar and just be able to select the sensitivity based on where your swing speed is. So if you've got a quick, abrupt swing speed, kind of like mine, quick chipping motion, you could slide it over to the hare. So you got your quick motion. And if you've got a slow chipping motion, then you could use the slider bar and adjust it a bit more to the tortoise. And I think that's a way that Garmin could really solve all these chipping issues, is just having those 3 basic profiles or the slider bar. Anyway, guys, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that you've got a bit more understanding of the Garmin R10, the limitations, and hopefully then you can start implementing some things that will help you with your chipping and be able to play sim golf with your Garmin R10. All right, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Cheers.